in a round where we saw Game 2 of State of Origin with Queensland taking the win, the Knights being able to shock the dominant Dolphins, and of course, the Roosters performing beautifully. Welcome to LTW. So, let's get straight into talking about Game 2 State of Origin. Now, Queensland were able to get the win in the game that was played in Perth 26-24. In more similar terms, I made a whole video on it, go check it out on my channel. But basically, more similar terms, if New South Wales were able to kick and didn't make so many silly mistakes like knock-ons, missed tackles, etc., they were definitely going to be able to win this. I think we probably would have made the comeback, but good job to the Birds. They did play quite well, and they've got this good team, and they actually dropped DCE, and maybe that's improved them slightly. I do like DCE though, so I'm not saying that's going to be completely the effect of it. But now, quickly saying that, let's go into the round of NRL. It kicked off on Friday because of Origin. No Thursday game. Thank you, Origin. We appreciate it. So the Tigers took on the Raiders. Now, the Tigers were home, but no one thought the Tigers were going to win, except maybe if you're a Tigers fan. Because the Raiders have, arguably, they look like to me the best side in the league. They're incredibly dominant. I know that it is the Bulldogs on top, but still the Raiders are playing really good footy. And the Tigers did have a decent effort, 12-16, but they just weren't able to get it, and I think that's what a lot of people expected. Then, to the next game, Saturday, 21st June, we had the Warriors and the Panthers. So, it was already a disaster for Penrith, with all these Origin players not being able to play in the game because they couldn't travel over to New Zealand, where the Warriors play. That's already something we could talk about that in a different video about how like the draw for these games and how it's all messed up and rigged and stuff. But anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. But still, it was a poor decision to have that game there, obviously. So with players like Cleary and so many of the team of Penrith out, it looked like it was going to be Warriors dominance, and that was going to be easy for the Warriors to move up to a higher place on the table. But that's exactly what didn't happen. The score ended 28-18 to the Penrith Panthers. They played better at points, I guess. The Warriors had a lead in this. I really thought once they had their lead, it was going to be all over. But Penrith didn't let that stop them. They came back and they were dominant more near to the end. That's the Penrith game that win. That has moved them up to, I believe, let me double check. Yep, 8th place. So they are in the 8 now, which is ridiculous. The next game is the Dolphins and the Knights. I mentioned this one in the intro as well because it is really shocking. With the Dolphins, they lost 3 games, not including this one. They beat teams by I think all the teams they beat were by more than 50. That was including the Bulldogs, the Cowboys. So let me double check. I always never do enough research. Yep, so the Bulldogs, the Dragons, and the Cowboys, which is some pretty, I know the Cowboys a bit more easier, but they were looking pretty good. The Dragons were looking pretty good, and then obviously the Bulldogs as well. That's the biggest shock. But then this is I think an even bigger one. With a late try, and the Knights were able to beat them. The Dolphins have been incredibly dominant, which I've mentioned like 1,000 times. That's how shocking it is that the Knights, who've just not been nowhere near that level, were able to somehow pick and get a try right at the end. And this is what I love about rugby league this season. It is incredibly unpredictable, and it's good to see results like that. But I think that's probably good for the Knights. They're on 13th, so they are the highest out of a bunch of teams who are all drawn up. So they're really close to the Cowboys, and everyone can really make the 8 if we're talking about the ladder in general. The next game was the Souths and the Storm. The Souths were at home, and on TV it looked like there was a couple of Storm fans there. I'm a couple, I'm not trying to say there was barely any. I saw quite a few, but that was just TV and I watched it for very little. Except for that, let's all have the actual matches of the fad, because it was crazy. AJ, round of applause to him. What a player. You see him right in the centre of the thumbnail for this video. He is such a great player. He's nearing that try scoring record. He scored, what I believe, 4 tries in that game, which is maybe a record of some sort, I believe. The Rabbitohs were easily the better side, but they still lost. It went to Golden Point. That's where the Storm was able to get the win. It will be really disappointing for the Rabbitohs. They should have won that game, and now the Rabbitohs sit in 16th place, which is ridiculous, because I think if we flash back to my mid-season predictions, which was supposed to be more accurate, they're already completely off, with me saying teams like the Dolphins would be further back, Penrith being further back, the Roosters being like 16th or something. It is not working well, but we'll forget about that. And then on to the next game, which is the Broncos and the Sharks. And it was another chaotic game. It was at Suncorp, Broncos with their home advantage, but it didn't seem like that was going to be the case. The Sharks went up. They were in the lead, and for so much of the game, they were the better side and in the lead. Until the end, the Broncos finally woke up. Yeah, see, if you were sleeping, which I understand if you were, just woke you up. But anyway, back to the point. The Broncos finally snapped out, and they started working really hard, and they played really well, and they were able to come back. And with them playing at the 7 minutes, especially in the second half, they deserved to get the win. But I think it was poor from the Sharks to concede so many tries when they had a big lead. Then to the second final game of the Sunday and the second final game of the week in general, it was the Roosters and the Cowboys. The Cowboys, arguably with their performance in recent weeks, they have been the worst team in the entire league. Probably, yeah, worse than the Titans. They've been the worst team in rugby league in the last couple of weeks. Game destroyed by 50 points to the Dolphins, and this week game destroyed 42-8 to the Roosters. And over to the Roosters, they are really good, super good. They're playing spectacular, and they deserve to be in the 8. Someone who is amazing, and I want to mention this now, James Tedesco. I think James Tedesco should be put in that Origin squad for Game 3. I think he deserves it. He's such a great player. It will be a big miss for the Roosters, but as someone who's not a Roosters fan, an Eagles fan, and a New South Wales Blues fan, I want Tedesco to play for the Blues in Game 3 because he's that good. But he did this because he has a really good chemistry with the team in general. Then to the final game, which was yesterday. I went to it. There's a vlog type of thing if you want to go see it on the channel as well. And it ended 36-20. The Eels just played better. Now, I did going into it a bit nervous. Obviously, there was no support for the Titans there. In general, there was no support for both teams in general. So, if I do a quick little search, Combank Stadium capacity. And I'll tell you in a second how it can hold 30,000, which is a good amount for a rugby league stadium. There were 8,000 people there. 8,000. Not many. But it was a bottom of the table clash. There was like 10 Titan fans in like one area, and that's all I saw. So good job to Titans bringing out 10 fans to the game. Congrats to them. But anyway, back to the rugby league. The Eels played much better, and I know I'm a bit biased when saying that, but just generally they did. It's a fact. Now, there was times where they were poor defensively or made simple mistakes, which is just casual Eels these days. But overall, they played well, 36-20. That moved them up to 15th, 15th on the table, ahead of the Rabbitohs as well as the Titans, which is great. But anyway, that's all I've got to say. Thank you once again. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.